We are so excited to bring this practitioner panel together with just amazing colleagues who continue to inspire Jessica and myself regularly with the work that they're doing in the world. Are all graduates of our certification program and have just really doing amazing work in the world. And that's what we want to turn our attention to today. So where does the story begin, right? Is always the question. So the first question that we have for our practitioners today is, how did you come to learn about appreciative inquiry? People hear about it, learn about it, sort of stumble upon it in different ways. And so we're curious as to your journey with appreciative inquiry. How did you come to know about it and study it and start sort of diving into it?
Well, I started every year. I think I've gone to 8 World Congresses for the International Positive Psychology Association. Really, really interesting organization that focuses on spreading positive psychology globally. And in one of the big speeches, Lindsay was speaking along with David Cooper-Ryder, and it was amazing. It was moving, the kind of impact they've had globally in very significant organizations with inspiring results. So afterwards, I, of course, went to the book signing, and at the book signing, I'm waiting in line with my little book, and I come up to David Cooper-Ryder. I'm like, David, I'm so inspired by the work you do. Can you sign my book, and can I learn more about what you're doing? And he said to me, go to the practitioner program. He said, this is the one I'm running right before my sabbatical. So that's how my journey started. It was with you at that Congress and then being directly inspired by David. I ran home to the hotel, signed up that night for the program, and I'm grateful for it.
We're grateful for it. We've all been better because of it and the work that you're doing at the World Place. I love that. We never know our ripples, do we? Who wants to jump in? Carrie, what about you? Where did your journey start?
I laugh because I was a complete skeptic, absolute skeptic. So I had an appreciative inquiry coaching class in my PhD program. And I grew up in consultancy, right? They hire the experts, bring them in, you help the client, and then you leave, and et cetera, the standard story. And this idea of, they can help themselves. It's Wizard of Oz. You had the power all along, Dorothy. And I'm like, oh, come on. So I was not a fan. And then we started to practice it, and I saw it work over and over and over again. And not only did I see it work, but it was faster and more impactful, and it was more powerful, and it was stickier than anything I had experienced before. And so I would call myself an AI convert because empirically it was just better, and it was so much more positive and freeing, really. So I then went to the practitioner training as well and got deeper and deeper. But that was my origin story.
I love it. I love the word convert too, Carrie. That's a great one. So, Fer, what about you? Tell us a little bit about your journey, how you came to know appreciative inquiry and study and start practicing it.
Okay, so I was living in Barcelona like 15 years ago, and I did my first systemic coaching certification, and I did a group psychology master. And in both training, I start to pay attention to quotes like high dream, low dream, what is the unfulfilling dream behind the complaint, behind every frustration, there is an unrealized dream, quotes like that, tools like that, no? I was curious, and behind that, I discovered there is something that people call appreciative inquiry, no? And I take advantage of a family trip to the States, and I go directly to Burlington. And I don't know, Lindsay, if you remember, but I knock the door. I knock the door, and I say, "Hi, I'm Fer," And this is the beginning of my story, looking for more for the source, no, la fuente. I start there. After that, I did the certification. I have the opportunity to join the Connect and Propel Tampa AI Summit. I have the great experience to meet Sherri there and Mike Chevaria. I also was in the Positive Education Accelerator AI Summit. So that was like the start of being in love with Appreciative Inquiry. Yeah.
And the start of a love of a story. I love many a story that starts with, "Hi, I'm Fur. I'm here." I mean, that's just the start of every good adventure, I think. So it's been a good journey for us all. Fur, thank you. And Sherri, what about you? Tell us a little bit about your journey and what how you first discovered and came into the appreciative practice realm.
So for me, my background's in learning and development, and I wanted to get their certificate or designation of being a CPLP. And so the Thin Book of Appreciative Inquiry was one of the recommended readings to accomplish that. And so when I read it, I was like, I love this. Like, I want to figure out how to do that. And so once I finished my certification, I read Diana Whitney's book, The Power of Appreciative Inquiry, and just started thinking about, like, how could I use this? And I just started experimenting. And so I was working in a consulting firm at the time, and we had low engagement and low morale. And so I was like, I wonder how this would work for that. Of course, I had no idea what I was doing at all, but that never stops me. And so I was like, I'm just going to put together a team. We're going to interview everybody, and I'm just going to tell them what I know and see what happens. And so I put together this team and said, we're going to ask people what they love about working here, and don't let them talk about what they don't love. Like, if they start talking about that, just steer them back and just get to one thing that they love about working here. And so we interviewed the entire staff and put together this PowerPoint for our company meeting. And so we had asked people, can we use your name with your quote? And when we did it, I had 2 people that agreed to do a video, and like 25% of the people allowed me to use their name. And so we just made like these anonymous things and played it at the beginning of our company meeting. And, you know, we put music to it and made it look nice. And by the end of that meeting, the entire morale and engagement from the people there had already started to shift, just from that 10-minute PowerPoint, because they were so entrenched in what they didn't like about working there that they weren't able to see anything good about it. And so then I was hooked and just started experimenting and doing things. And it's actually how I got to my consulting company, is just from that experiment, because later I was at a meeting with the Florida Aquarium where Micah Chevaria was there, and they were talking about a morale issue. And someone said, well, tell them about what you did at the company meeting. And I was like, well, you may not have heard of this framework, but I read about this framework, Appreciative Inquiry. And they were like, I just read about it. And Mike's like, let's start a company and do this. And so that's actually how I got started. But it was really just from being interested in experimenting and seeing the power. Like, you can feel it in the room.
Oh, what a great story, Sherri. And again, I love the stories that are like just doing it and finding the evidence, and then we have the wonderful Carrie, the skeptics of like, this actually works. Who knew that this was actually going to work? I love those stories, and I love thank you. I mean, yeah. So we know a little bit of the origin stories. I love origin stories. All good. Hero and heroine stories have a wonderful origin, right? And so we know that was just the beginning of your journey as AI practitioners in these different realms. And so we'd love to dive in and hear from you all in terms of what are, our appreciative question, the classic appreciative question of what are some of those high point moments that you've had since then, since the finding and the beginning to dive in, the learning that you did from the certificate program, but you've been applying and using appreciative inquiry in your own practice. So are there any specific examples where you've really seen and applied an appreciative approach that's really had a positive impact that you want to lift up for us? So
actually, this led to an award-winning project for us. From Salesforce, we won an innovation award for our customer relationship management, or in academia, it's constituent relationship management, our strategy for technology and overall CRM strategy and implementation. And normally, so we were going to have a consultant work with us, And what often the approach, right? Consultants going to come in, ask us about pain points, ask us all of the typical things, right? And then they were going to separate all the stakeholders, go off and write a presentation and a paper, and then bring it back and present it to us, and then go on their merry way. And I said, actually, that's not how we're going to do this. I want to present a much more dialogic approach. This is appreciative inquiry, and here's how we're going to tweak it. Are you in? And they said, sure. So together, we designed the process, and we did it in a series of workshops, and it was very much whole system, very inclusive. It really focused on, positive and forward thinking. What could it look like? Giving people the vision. So we really enacted the principles of AI with some of the process built in, but it was very much principle driven. And in the end, this was 14 weeks. We had over 100 people participating very, very deeply. We ended up with a 70-some page strategy document with over 300 contributors to it. And I mean, this was not the consultants' work. This was our work together with the consultants, helping and facilitating, and the engagement and the involvement of everyone in the work, truly the ownership, and how we inquired about the organization and where we wanted it to go. It was a really, truly amazing experience. And all of our, feedback at the end talked about how inclusive and how this was the best strategic development experience that they had ever been a part of. So it was really exciting, and that is absolutely a high point experience.
I have many high experience. I want to back to the experience of the AI summits, these big summits in Tampa and Texas. How to be there when each dialogue is working, they feel the energy, understand the process with 800 people there, coming from all the world, all Tampa Bay, So I think those are really high experience for me, human experience and in the learning process. So you have the opportunity to join a summit, an AI summit is a great path, to understand what's happened there. Also, the center invite me to facilitate the Appreciative Mindset course in Spanish, and for me that was a high experience too, because the person who learned more about the principles and have the opportunity to really integrate more than my students was me, that was a gift also, because for sure appreciative inquiry is beyond the frameworks, it's about the principles,
I put together 3 quick slides to summarize a couple of different levels of how it's been applied. So if I can share those, would now be an okay time to do that? Okay.
Yes, please do. Yeah, and you should be able to, screen share them.
Okay, so the sharing a screen. Cool. Okay. The first way we've done it, Impact Performance Group, I mentioned that we work with a lot of Fortune 500 companies. The power of the question, which Fern just said, asking questions. We have found that bringing appreciative discovery to our clients, both in the sales role and a relationship management role, has them ask more inspiring and aspirational questions. For them, it's been a game changer because they're trying to create conversations and relationships, and they're trying to inspire people to strengthen the relationship and achieve goals versus find out what's wrong and points of pain. I think it was the skeptic that Carrie was talking about, the traditional ways to find the problem instead if they find what they want to have done. The second way we've done it is an appreciative coaching. And that's really helped with well-being, to actually take the view in both coaching and goal setting. Invariably, we have a deficit bias. We have a negativity bias. We tend to see what's wrong, what someone isn't doing right. And we traditionally would write cases all about what someone isn't doing right and how we're going to coach them. Every aspect of our design there has changed to focusing on identifying what the team members' strengths are, what they're doing right, and what we want them to do more of. That is a huge shift for our clients and for us. And finally, strategic planning. We had 2 Fortune 500 companies that were merging and did not know how to navigate the landscape. And we used the SOAR process to help them. And there was plenty of tension of who's doing what and who's going to be in control. And this was instrumental in helping them navigate that. At our own company, you have to kind of eat your own breakfast, right? So we had 3 leaders go through and go through the practitioner training. So we had more institutional knowledge of how to do this. We applied SOAR to ourselves, which is a dynamic but scary. It was probably sitting very much where Carrie was. Do I let go and let everyone give their input on where they see that everything going? And it was literally magical, right? To see the energy of people leaning in and contributing ideas. So now our team meetings, our design and development, and our own strategic planning is around this powerful framework. And finally, we had 3 leaders get certified in Strength Scope. So we really knew and could dive into strengths assessments and coaching. But there's been a personal journey too. So just stepping back and saying, okay, this is really powerful stuff. How do I learn more? And so went on to get a master's in applied positive psychology, became very active in leading one of the divisions of at IPA and keeping company with Lindsay and David and 1,600 people at these World Congresses. And also at the summit. Fern and I were at the summit. I think Sherri, you were there too, for IPEN, which is very inspiring to see 800 people come together globally and talk about how to bring appreciative inquiry into the world of education and see the inspiring ideas that were generated. And then finally, just Fern mentioned it, even in a moment or a thought, just having an appreciative eye allows us to just be more in the moment and see all the good things happening around us and leverage those. So those have been some of the ways that have created those high moments.
I've had some really great experiences. I've been able to work on a summit. We did a 500-person summit in Tampa. A lot of you actually helped work on the summit, so thank you. I had the opportunity to work with David and Lindsay in planning the summit and Prue and have them help facilitate it. So that was an amazing experience. It was amazing to see the impact in what we did and work with a lot of clients. But if you asked me the most impactful moment for appreciative inquiry, it was personal, because for me, I was raising 2 children when I went through the certification. And like a lot of working moms, right, it was very stressed out. I had a lot going on. And I remember getting a text in the middle of something from one of my children and just feeling like, oh, what now? And I stopped in the moment and was like, wait a minute, I'm doing all of this appreciative inquiry work. Like, this is not aligned with what I believe. And I changed their names in the contacts to amazing daughter and amazing son, so that anytime I got a text from them or they called me, that's the first thing I saw. And it immediately changed everything about how I responded. And so from a personal impact, I really believe that that helped create a much better and stronger relationship with my children. And as a side note, the first time they saw their name pop up as amazing daughter when they were in the car, they were like, what, right? What's my name in your phone? So it was just, it's just a very small shift that you can make that just has a huge impact on your relationships with others.
And Sherri told me that story. And
I did it at the jam in my little Dr. Seuss.
She did it in the thing, and she shared that story with us. And Sherri wanted to talk about ripples and the power of ripples. I too study. How long have I studied appreciative inquiry and done this work? She told me that story. I immediately changed my own children's names in my thing. I have Adam's super son and super daughter Eliana in my phone. And I just want you to know, Sherri, thank you.
It helps though, right? Because it immediately just helps you refocus.
So, if anybody has a text chat, somebody with somebody, and you need to like reframe with them and, change their name. But what are other tips, tools, best practices, just even inspirational advice that you all want to offer for all of us, right? That we are all continuing to cultivate our own appreciative practices and skills, whether that is with ourselves, with our family, with our community, and definitely with those organizations and communities with which we work. So
my best tip would be experiment with it. If you are interested in appreciative inquiry, do not be afraid of it. Do not think it's overly positive. Don't set your mindset for what it is. Because I hear a lot of people say, well, it just ignores the negative. And if you read about it and you experiment with it, you will learn very quickly that it does not just ignore the negative, but it really helps build it. And I think it's an experience. I think you really need to experience it. So that's what I would encourage you to do. Read a little bit about it, learn a little bit about it. I highly recommend the certification because it really was amazing for me. But just first experience it. Just try something and experience it. Because like Carrie said, being a skeptic, it's not until you have the experience. It's very difficult to explain what it feels like to have and see and feel that shift in yourself. I've used it with organizations, in coaching, in communities, in community engagement. I don't think there's any limit to how you can use it, but first experience it for yourself, and then you'll be able to take that forward.
I love that, Sherri. And I love the reminder too, that experiment can be small. It can be literally the act of asking a different question, right? I mean, sometimes I think we get wrapped up. It's like, oh, I have to do experiment with a summit or something. It's like, actually, I'm an appreciative inquirer by asking a different question in this conversation, in this relationship. And so what a wonderful invitation for us to experiment in small and big ways.
One is really, really simple, and that's the reframing of some of our really simple language. Like, did you ever notice how we always say, don't forget? Like the assumption is I'm going to do the bad thing, right? So, and little shifts. So I started saying, remember to do something instead of assuming the deficit or the negative. And that's kind of translated into a couple of other things to encourage positivity, encourage the thing you want, that kind of thing. And the other would be more general, which is a focus for me is on the principles, and then the process will come. And getting really deeper into the principles, exploring the principles, I think makes us more agile and flexible. And it lets you see tons of opportunities to apply appreciative inquiry, not just in I have to go to an AI summit and this is how it works and here's the process. But it really makes AI much more pervasive and it's much more relevant in so many parts of my life.
Well, talking about some tips or some experience that I feel resonating in many executive and teams and organizations, start maybe to recognize that all of us live in this tension between our vision and the reality, no? And all of us also has to navigate between protection and connection, okay? And for me, appreciative inquiry is great to navigate, and flow in this different process we all have to navigate. Something that for me is useful to connect with my clients are make a difference between positivity and generativity. I really like to, when I talk about appreciative inquiry, pay more attention to the generative impact, and just mention that positivity have a crucial role, in the process, and is not the source and the impact that we will going to get after the use of any kind of the frameworks, So that is useful. sometimes the scenario for a person, for a team, for an organization is really hard to connect through a positivity speech, no? And something useful is make this difference. The role of positivity that facilitates something, and the goal that is what is generative in this situation for us. Okay.
I love what people have said, and I'm busy changing all my contacts for sure.
Yeah.
And a couple of things that have shifted for us that I would invite everyone to lean into is our team all took strengths assessments. You can use Gallup, you can use the values in action, and we did all three, and we did strength scope. And then we posted them, not to categorize ourselves, but to become aware of what one another, what brings other people energy and how they'd like to contribute and work together. And it shifted how we focused on projects completely. So that's one thing I would recommend doing, because you learn so much, and it's someone at their best with the energy doing what they like to do. Another thing that we did, and we loved high point interviews. You can't get more exciting in any kind of a meeting, but to ask people about that. And Sherri, I love your opening question because it brings so much positive light in. We prepare before meetings. And in our meetings, we say, what appreciative questions are we going to ask in a team meeting as an outcome, or with clients? Coming into a lot of our needs assessments, what are our appreciative or generative questions? And it makes a world of a difference. People open up. And if you think of Barbara Fredrickson's work on positive emotions, we create a very quick upward spiral where people are more open to ideas, and you can literally feel it, versus starting with what's wrong with your organization, what problems are you having, where are you not performing. That brings people down and defensive. So we've been spiraling people up. So I'm grateful for all the practitioner training we've gotten in Appreciative Inquiry. Very powerful.
Yes, thank you, each of you, Sherri, for Carrie and Liz, for the gift of at the end of this year lifting up some inspirational stories, some practices, practical tips for us, and just showing us that our learning and doing and applying journey continues on and on and on, even as we come together and re-inspire each other to take away new practices. And exactly that, what everybody said is what we're hoping and working to do at the center, is to do more of this, lifting up stories, examples, tips, tools, and helping you connect with others. Yes, as you want to do a deeper dive and continue expanding your own appreciative practices.